Right, so that's your prep area. And where are you? You're in...
We're based in Rostrevor, which would be the foothills of the Moor Mountains.
Lovely.
Probably just east of Newry, Warren Point, and then Rostrevor. So it's a small little village.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Right. So you're very much the other end of the country as Ross then.
Absolutely. I had the pleasure of passing through the shop there a couple of months back. I think it was August. We did a bit of a camping trip with the family.
Oh, lovely.
One of the staycations, which everybody's doing at the moment. So popped into the shop. I think we met Fleur in there.
Yes. Yeah.
It was lovely to meet her. So very knowledgeable, and we got to drop off the samples for you guys. And delighted that we're in the shop. And thanks very much.
Great. Yeah. No, we're delighted. We're delighted, and it's very interesting. I mean, this product in particular, I presume this is where you started.
We started with a very kind of rudimentary version of that product. 14 herbs, I think, and spices were the original one that we used. Basically, it was a concoction of different ingredients that I found beneficial for me. I kind of suffered with IBS pretty much the best part of my life, and I know that diet plays a huge factor in that. Yeah. It can cause flare-ups from time to time, and a lot of what we eat is overly processed, and sometimes we're not really sure what we're eating, because even we might see fruit that looks really good in the shop, it could be covered with pesticides and everything else. So try to strip everything back and go back to organic eating, and I found it made a huge difference for me. Brilliant.
Okay, and that led you to thinking. And what were you doing before you started designing health food products?
Yeah, well, funny enough, I had kind of when I started back, originally from Dublin, as you probably guessed with the accent, left Dublin in '93 and went to New York for 16 years. So I was in the US for 16 years, played a bit of sports out there. I noticed, when I was working, left Ireland as a plumber, went over, did my master's in electrical over there, had my own electrical business for a while, and actually left in a recession, experienced a recession out there, and came back in a recession. So I didn't want to miss a recession, everywhere I went, I seemed to find one, So part of that, whole thing coming back in 2008, 2009, and experiencing all the difficulties there with trades and so on, I decided to get back into something that I always had a kind of an interest in, which was biology, obviously from my own condition, but just, decided to maybe take another focus and look into some of the foods that we're eating and see if I could maybe do something with that, So I started in farmers markets, create my own little concoctions, giving them to people. First of all, we had to get, the taste right, so people would, come back and obviously enjoy it and eat it. And then that they would actually see some sort of benefit from it as well, that it would help them, maybe, encourage them to eat a little bit more healthy and experience some of the benefits that I got from it as well, So it started there, farmers markets like the Drogheda Market, Dundalk Square, that sort of thing, and we're very well received.
Brilliant. And do you still go to farmers markets, or are you mainly?
Not as much now, just because we've been so busy, I love the farmers markets. I love meeting people. We did a lot of, places like supermarkets. We did a little bit of introduction to the product there. Big shopping centers like the Square in Tala and the Pavilions and Swords. And it's great because you get to meet a huge host of people, from young and old, which is great.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And what led you into fermenting? What drew you to fermentation?
Essentially kombucha, I think, was the first time, tasted kombucha out in America, some great organic stores over there too as well. There's a big movement over in the US, more so from the West Coast, but it's obviously come across the East Coast as well, with kombucha and, fermentation of like kimchi and all these other things. I really got introduced to those out there, and that's when I kind of said to myself, this is interesting. You can kind of create a little lab in your kitchen and start making things and kind of see. Yeah. It's almost like growing, vegetables. You're growing a SCOBY instead, and you can mix all different, ingredients with that and really get some interesting flavors come out of that as well, and obviously the health benefits too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of people making kombucha, but I don't think so. The other product that we're really enjoying is the kombucha vinegar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't come across, in Ireland anyway, I haven't come across another kombucha vinegar.
Well,
Was it common in the States? Like, is it something that you came across there, or?
no, it's actually, well, just to clarify, it's not a kombucha vinegar as such.
Not a kombucha vinegar.
Yeah,
Ah,
it's essentially, it's a pure vinegar. It's not an apple cider vinegar. That's the difference with our product.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, my mistake. Okay.
So I would have come across apple cider vinegar. Obviously, there's some very big names in apple cider vinegar,
Yeah.
and some famous names, from the US as well. Pretty much kickstarted the whole kind of revolution with apple cider vinegar, and then all the associated health benefits with that as well. So I decided, I love the effects vinegar had for me. I love the detoxification effects, and just getting something that was, kind of organic and healthy into me as well. Obviously regulates blood sugar levels, the acidity, it's all there, So the downside of it was that it can be really bitter to taste, can be very hard to drink.
Yeah.
And, you want to be able to take something that you actually enjoy taking quite often. Where vinegar that's kind of, really hits you in the back of the throat, some days you're just not up for that, So I said, if we actually made a vinegar out of the blend, which is got the 45 ingredients in, so I said, well, look, if we can add filtered water to that, take it through another couple of fermentation processes and see can we actually make, quality vinegar. And we ended up with, really happy with what we ended up was, it wasn't our first try. I mean, we had a lot of trial and error to get to there, but really happy with the way the botanical blend 45 came out. And we kind of created a unique process along the way. And that's why I can't really actually show you the fermentation room, because we're actually possibly, be able to patent something in there. Okay. So I don't really want to expose that just yet,
Fair enough.
But it's a pretty unique process. And I can say that we use two kind of traditional process for making vinegar. The New Orleans method, which is kind of the old traditional method where you actually leave vinegar for a long time and let it slowly oxidize. And we also use a kind of semi-quick method, which is a submerged method. And we do something pretty unique in that method too, with the combination of the two. So that's what gives us this really smooth tasting vinegar. Really happy with the way that turned out. And we also have 3 woods that we add in there as well.
You have 3
3 woods. So we use like a cherry oak, and we use peach, and we use apple wood as well.
Okay. We're going to have a little taste of vinegar. Trying to pour it out, because so normally we would, with a product like this, we would have asked if you could come down. I know it's a long old way, but we would have had an in-store tasting and, kind of meet the customers and introduce the product. So obviously we can't do that at the moment.
Yeah.
Hence the online version. So we decided to try it with warm, like that's kind of, it was boiling water about 20 minutes ago. So I should have probably given it a shake. Probably should have given, would you give it a shake at home, or would you let the sediment at the bottle just stay sediment at the bottom, just leave it
It's
there?
really personal preference. I mean, if you look at how the color of that vinegar is pretty thick in color, it's pretty deep.
Yeah.
So throughout that vinegar, you have a huge amount of all the minerals and nutrients, and the microbes are in there anyway. What settles to the bottom it's negligible, really, beneficial wise. Some people like to shake it around. Yeah. If you see anything kind of glutinous floating around in there, that's probably the remnants of a SCOBY. Yeah. Because we don't filter our vinegar in any way. Unlike some of the big brands out there, they'll tell you that it's unpasteurized and unfiltered. It's probably filtered in some way, because I noticed from experience, it's very hard to pour vinegar in large batches without clogging up nozzles, because, by nature, the SCOBY that's in there is going to clog up any nozzle you have. So we don't use small nozzles, and we don't fill it really quickly. We actually take our time. So we use a kind of like a 1/2-inch nozzle, whatever will fit in the top of the bottle, and we just let it trickle in. So we do take a little bit of time in bottling, as you can see. This would be a little bit of work for me later on, just to finish off all this. Yeah. But by not filtering it, we're actually allowing all that kind of, the nutrient level that's in the microbes, in the enzyme, and that kind of gelatinous tissue that you get in there. That's really beneficial for you. And if you can get that into you, all the better. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And it does. It tastes amazing, actually. And so when you say there's 3 woods, how does that work exactly?
Yeah, so part of the process in making vinegar is that you actually trickle vinegar through wood. Some people use beechwood, and it's just because beechwood, you can get a nice spiral when you shave beechwood shavings they call it. And you trickle, basically your alcohol through that. So you'd have to first of all, you have to turn this into a kind of an alcohol beverage. So we would actually make a kind of a wine with that. It's all one continuous process. So we don't actually stop at the wine level. We let that go through, and then we actually put it into a secondary tank. And the tank, that's basically a must. You've heard of wine must before. So we make that into a must using the filtered water. When we're happy that the fermentation has ended and we're happy with the pH and everything else, we will put that through a tank then where it actually filters through these 3 different woods. And those woods actually hold the bacteria, because wood is very conducive to actually multiplying bacteria and keeping it, in contact with the actual substrate, which is with the vinegar and so on. So as it passes through, we make several passes with it. It gets, some nutrients from the wood and obviously some flavors in there too. So by adding those 3 different types of woods in the way we do, it gives a really smooth finish, but we don't have to go to that extra level of barrel aging it for months and months, Yeah. Okay. Kind of speeds up that process because we're in constant contact, whereas in a barrel, you're really only getting the outside of the barrel interacting with the vinegar. When we pass it through all the woods, it's going to get that flavor much quicker.
From start to finish, how long does it take then? If you're a
closely guarded secret. This one here, anywhere from the very start of the process, because we use various production processes like fermentation process. For instance, the kombucha, we're starting at anywhere from 7 to 2 weeks, 7 days to 2 week period. That's just for the kombucha, and then we would actually move this on to a different stage where we'd actually have the fruits in here. Certain fruits are aged a little bit differently. So we'd be mixing some of our vinegar actually goes back into this product as well. And that helps break down some of the undigestible fibers that are in there, which are very beneficial for us. And as you know, undigestible fibers are, prebiotic by nature. So like inulin and fructin, you'd have very good levels. Raisins are one of the best sources of those. So that's predominantly why we use a lot of raisins in our products. So yeah, from start to finish, we can go anywhere from 10 weeks if you actually started from scratch. But because we're up and running now, we do it in stages. We always have kombucha ready. We always have, part of our fermentation process. You can see there's kind of 3 barrels there, and they would just be, just 3 different stages of the actual whole process.
Okay. So you're ready to go with any one of the.
At any time, when we get sometimes we get a big rush of orders. We have to put some on back order just because of the nature. We can't kind of speed up the fermentation process in any way. We have to kind of wait. It could only be 4 or 5 days just till we're ready, and then we're good to go. Now we are ramping up all of that production as we go, and we're kind of forecasting a little bit better than we did at the start. But we kind of really took off there during the pandemic. Strangely enough, where most people were kind of panicking that business was going to take a nosedive, and we really excelled. So we were kind of. We had to kind of learn early and very quickly how to adapt and make a lot more and use bigger barrels and so on. So some of these barrels here would only be like 25 liter drums. We'd be up to 220 liters now in the next drum,
Okay, wow. That's a big jump.
Big,
yeah. Why do you think it was particular to the pandemic?
I think just generally people started paying attention to the immune system, everything we do here is all about gut health, and that's from my own perspective. But in researching gut health, we realize that, 70 to 80% of the immune system is formed in the gut, and 90% of the feel-good hormone serotonin is formed there too. Actually, it's a bit more than 90%. I think it's up to 95%. And every day there's new research coming out on how, the gut health and the diversity of probiotics and obviously prebiotics in the gut can really play a huge role in general well-being. The likes of autoimmune conditions can flare up when when our gut is in dysbiosis, which is the imbalance between good bacteria and bad bacteria. and obviously neurological conditions can benefit as well if we have good gut health, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a huge amount of sense. And I suppose, I mean, we would find people are interested in expanding. We sell a lot of probiotics in capsules, obviously, but you know, there is growing interest in how we can get probiotics from our food. So we would have, you know, I mentioned kombucha or kimchi, and you know, sauerkraut, and we have water kefir. We've got, there's a few different things, but I suppose this is quite a different, like this, there isn't really a category for this product. And one of the things, we were going to have a little taste of this, and then just ask you, I suppose, first of all, what do you call it? Like, how do you describe it to someone?
A lot of people ask me, you know, can you describe it? You know, I used to say it tastes very like Christmas pudding, you know.
Yes.
You're thinking mincemeat.
Mincemeat.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that, you know, or fig jam or something like that. But I think that, you know, by saying even those, you really, you know, make a small, you know, version of what we're doing, you know, in your mind, you know, and it's really a botanical blend. We call it the botanical 45 blend because of the 45 hand-selected ingredients. And I have hand-selected those ingredients, most of which are very high in natural anti-inflammatories.
Yes.
So to talk just a little bit about natural anti-inflammatories, I found them really beneficial for me. You know, in a lot of the foods I've taken, I found that some really benefit me more than others. I've tried the turmeric. You know, there is problems with the turmeric. I found is that turmeric can be quite hard to take in large amounts. It's a very strong flavor. Obviously, it's used in curries and at a food level. But some of these supplements were really, you know, cramming, you know, large amounts of turmeric into us, which I don't think is really beneficial for us. I think our body can only handle so much of any of these natural anti-inflammatories. Everything in moderation is a great saying. You know, I think we need to balance what we eat, have a diverse range of foods. As they say, eat the rainbow, switch over to organic. Turmeric I found was just a little bit too strong for me, especially in some of the levels that we're getting it in. I didn't like it in the supplement versions either because it's quite strong, and a lot of them use piperine in there, which is the black pepper, and that, you know, helps the absorption of turmeric. We only put food grade turmeric in our products, so we don't actually use huge amounts or high strength or high concentrate turmeric. It's the same sort of turmeric that you would get in your curry, you know. But it's the combination of all the anti-inflammatories that we're using. Ginger's in the turmeric family. We use quite a bit of raw ginger in there, as you can tell. You probably get a little bit of heat in the back taste. But there's, you know, like there's parsley, there's natural anti-inflammatories in parsley, lemon peel, orange peel, and all the herbs and spices have natural anti-inflammatory capabilities. So it's the amalgamation of all of those together that I think really helps the natural effects and the natural anti-inflammatories. Because we don't want to just target people that, you know, saying, you know, is this good for joint health? Is it good for, you know, arthritis or anything like that? It's not really about that. It's about the gut health in general. And all of those, if you can get the gut health, you know, in optimal shape, then the rest of those symptoms will definitely benefit from them as well, you know?
Yeah. No, that makes a huge amount of sense. I mean, it's kind of an overall well-being. I suppose it's something that I think that, you know, in previous times, it obviously would have been handed down generation to generation, that kind of wisdom and knowledge. And I guess we're, you know, in some cases, well, we lost a bit there along the way, didn't we? We had, you know, rather a lot of industrialized food and rather not enough handmade food. I mean, we grew up, our dad used to make vinegar, sometimes by accident. I think sometimes he used to try and make elderflower something, and it would turn into
wine,
wine or champagne or something, and it would go a bit too far. But he used to make apple vinegar as well, but not cider vinegar. Am I right thinking the difference between apple vinegar and cider vinegar is that cider vinegar is actually you make cider and then you make vinegar from the cider?
Yeah, well, to make any sort of vinegar, you have to make alcohol first. You can't make vinegar without making alcohol, because the alcohol that actually fuels the acetic acid, you know, and the acetic acid obviously is what's, you know, the larger ingredient in vinegar. Cider, it can be dependent on apples too. A lot of the apples that people use, and in general some of the big manufacturers use in the creation of apple cider vinegar. And a lot of people don't realize this is it's actually a byproduct of the apple industry.
Okay.
You actually have apple farms that are there for the sale of apples to the big supermarket chains. Supermarket chains are very fussy when it comes to apples. So anything with spots on it or any sort of bruising, they're going to send that back, and they have to have something to do with all these apples. So they're either making cider, or they're making pulp as animal feed, or they're making apple cider vinegar, you know. And they created this huge market, which is fantastic because it gets rid of all that excess waste that we would have just been throwing apples out, and created a very good product that was, you know, had a lot of health connotations to it. So, you know, we just took that a step further, and I said, look, why not make a really good, purposely built, healthy vinegar, and make it very tasty, you know, so that people could enjoy it. And you could actually, it'd be a bit more versatile. You know, it's very hard to put apple cider vinegar on a lot of other foods, even though they say you can try it on salads and everything else. I find it very sharp, very bitter. Our vinegar is really sweet, kind of, I think, the taste, and it's got a smooth finish to it. So it doesn't really, you know, hit you in the back of the throat. You will always have that kind of tingle from acetic acid that's in there.
Sure.
But there's a much higher concentration of all the other beneficial compounds and acids. And that's just because we're putting 45 ingredients in as opposed to just apples. So it stands to reason that you get much more out of it. Higher polyphenolic compounds, antioxidant levels. It's all in there, you know. And that sweetness of taste. So it's very versatile. You can throw it on salads, soups. We love hearing ideas from other people, how they've used it and how they've added it. I would stay away from putting it in really hot water, because I think you're gonna kind of kill the live organisms that are in there. Anything over 65 degrees Celsius is going to damage or kill pretty much any bacteria that's in there. We're promoting good bacteria. So, you know, every day we go through we go through the bacteria that's in our body every day, and it needs to be replaced, you know, and people don't realize that we're actually exhausting our bodies every day, and we're putting in processed foods, and then that's depleting our good bacteria in there. So we end up with this kind of imbalance. And then after a while, we get sluggish and we get tired and irritable, and, you know, everything else that goes with, you know, bouts of constipation and so on. So, you know, to really go back to the basics is start eating raw organic food, get rid of all those pesticides that we've been, you know, digesting for years now, strip it back to the basics and just eat a healthy kind of variety of foods. Our body already has the microbes in there, already have the good bacteria. We get that through birth. We also get it from mother's milk and so on. And we develop our own as we go along, you know, in life. But what we don't do is we don't fuel it with all the necessary good foods that will, you know, help our body make that bacteria and replenish the exhausted and depleted levels that we have. So to keep feeding the body is really important. And I think that's made a huge difference in my life. And, you know, I've given these products to, you know, friends and families, and I hear every other day how it's helping people with other things. We don't make health claims. We're a food company. We let people kind of, you know, use word of mouth to get that message out there if they want to. We've no control over that, but we don't go blasting it from the roof that we're going to cure you this and that. It's not about that for us. It's just about helping people, you know, start eating the right foods. And then they might get a taste for that and realize, you know, actually I feel much better. Everything's working much better for me. Maybe I'll just continue this journey and start really looking into what I eat and stop eating all these processed foods, because we're only encouraging that side of the market where we really should be encouraging the homegrown side of the market, which is the organic market, the likes of, you know, small businesses like ourselves, local food producers, all these guys. We have a wealth of great food in this country. We just really need to get a little bit more involved in it. And I know yourselves are doing a great job down there.
Yeah, you're really speaking our language there. Really are. I mean, it's you know, it's interesting because I think as well, like you've obviously not chosen the easy route either to what you're doing. Do you know, which I think is great, because obviously, you know, it can be seductive to choose the easy route. So, you know, well done for that. And I mean, even, you know, being certified organic is really impressive, that both products are certified organic. That's really impressive, especially with 45 ingredients. I'm imagining that that's not the easiest thing.
That was not easy. I can guarantee you that, as you know yourself. And just sourcing those ingredients on an ongoing basis. For instance, we're over to green lemons just because of the season.
Yeah, we're same. Yeah, we're the same. Yeah.
Tastes fantastic. no difference really for me. And we're going to dehydrate these as well. So, and that's just to improve the shelf life. And because we want to control the moisture in the product, most of the foods that we put in there will be dehydrated because we don't want too much water, you know, because you can get, you know, batches of carrots and so on, different ingredients, and they'll have higher concentrations of citric acid in there. So there's a lot of science goes into it, and there's a lot of time, and we've done a lot of trial and error to get to where we are. So a simple change like this can kind of play havoc unless we know exactly what to do with it. So, and that's how far the journey, we started in 2015, really, I suppose, really getting involved in this from a commercial aspect. And it's taken a long time. You know, we're doing everything. It's, you know, I should really mention my wife and all of this. My partner, Anya, who does a fantastic job behind the scenes. She doesn't like the camera or anything like that, or out in the farmers markets. But she's the kind of glue that holds the whole thing together and allows me a little bit of freedom to go and do whatever I have to do as well, and be a little bit creative as well from time to time, you know. So a huge thank you to her, really, I should be given. And, you know, she also steers me in the right path too. And wherever we think I get a little ahead of myself sometimes, she just grounds me as well, you know. So we're a good partnership in work and in life, you know, and it's the payoff now is that we've put so much time and effort into this that a lot of people have come on board now and really getting the message, you know, that I can be a little convoluted sometimes when I start talking. This is my subject, my mastermind choice subject, so I can go rambling off sometimes. So, and she's not here to kind of correct me and say, stay on point and stay focused, you know.
No, well, I mean, it's great, and it's very inspiring because I guess, you know, again, as well, like the fact that it's an Irish product, you know, as well as being organic.
It's pretty unique.
It is, yeah. No, it's great. I mean, we're always on the lookout for, you know, for things that are Irish and organic, because often it's one or the other.
Right.
You know, so that's very exciting. And I suppose, I mean, if, you know, I mean, we've actually just had it up on the table that we have our staff lunch. So we're kind of encouraging people just to have a spoonful on the side of their lunch. But I guess you've got on the back of your jar, you've got have on yogurt, have on bread. I guess you could nearly use it as a jam. I mean, it's
absolutely. We've a lot of people use it as like a marmalade, so to speak. They love it on their toast. Some people put it in sandwiches like as a pickle, you know, it's kind of a sweet relish. You could use it like that. What we have people mixing into porridge, that's one we hear quite often. You know, into oats and that. I love it in a natural organic yogurt. I think it really brings the yogurt alive. And then you're also getting a little bit extra probiotics in there too, some more live cultures with yogurt. But you know, we've got some very interesting ideas. We sent some samples over to a nutritionist in the UK that was requesting them. Marilla, and she's actually really good at creating these kind of unique recipes. And she made pumpkin oat Vita Plantae kind of power balls, they called.
Okay.
And really interesting looking, you know, and quite simple as well, you know. So just basically all that mixed together, rolled into a nice ball, and you've got a really good source of nutrients, you know, and good healthy ingredients in there as well.
That's a good idea. Maybe, I know we've got a customer down here who recently won, do you remember Heather? She won a competition for a banana bread, the banana bread she made. I don't know who, it could have been Fife's. It was a big competition anyway. She was delighted and it was great. Maybe you should run a competition to see what people could come up with, what kind of, you know, wacky and wonderful, I mean, I guess it would the baking cause a problem for the probiotics if you baked it?
The heat will definitely do some damage to it. But again, as I said, like we're using the live microorganisms in there to kind of help people who are kind of imbalanced, you know, or deficient in those. But also all those prebiotics that are in there are really going to help, you know, fulfill the probiotics that you already have and fuel those guys and get them, you know, get them up to the levels that they need to be. So although you might be, you know, for the sake of it, you know, if you're making a banana bread with it, hypothetically, you may lose the benefits of those live cultures at the start, but you're still going to get all that prebiotic food in there as well, which is really going to replenish what you have lost.
I remember as well, I was at a lecture, do you remember we were at a lecture in Ballymaloe with the professor from UCC who does all the research. Ted Dinan, who does all the research into probiotic, you know, the gut-brain connection and all of that.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said was that even when a probiotic has effectively been killed, that it's still beneficial to consume because it still has not, and I don't think he meant the prebiotic nature in that sense. It was more just, there was something, it still had a massive benefit. So, and I think he was also talking about if they went down to the stomach and they were killed by the stomach acid as well. So even in that case, but they had found that even probiotics where, say you made a yogurt and the yogurt had been pasteurized, that there was still a benefit. And maybe it's, as you say, maybe it's nourishing your own flora.
Yeah, I'm not wholly, you know, up on the whole idea of the probiotics lasting through these different, you know, sources of heat, you know, excessive heat and, you know, gastric acid as well. But I do know that a lot of the, you know, the live cultures, I've read up on this, is that the skin of the raisin or the skin of the blueberry passes right through, you know, most of the intestinal tract and is only kind of really absorbed in the gut, in the lower, you know, intestines. And that's really, you know, the insoluble fiber we talk about. And that's where a lot of these microorganisms kind of reside. And that's how they make it through the stomach lining. So a lot of the modern chemical versions of like probiotics and prebiotics, the jury's still out on whether they actually make it through most of this, you know, gastric tract. And whether they actually can be absorbed by the body. Now, you know, obviously there is science behind that. We've done a lot of research. I do read a lot of published papers, you know, from Harvard Medical School and all these guys, because I really have an interest in that, you know, and all the findings that they're finding out all the time. But definitely, just getting those into it is very important. And just to go back to the chemical versions, like our body was never designed to take in, you know, unnatural looking substances, you know, as unnatural as it is to us, like, you know, putting sachets of powder and, you know, capsules and gelatin and all this sort of stuff. You know, the body doesn't really know what to do with all that. And that's from what I've read, but it really knows what to do with organic food that, you know, is pesticide free and doesn't have any sort of chemicals that are going to send it into, you know, fight mode, which is like activate the immune system and that, you know. So by just stripping it all back, as I said before, go back to organic, go back to eating, you know, fermented foods. That's the way we used to preserve foods years ago before we had refrigerators. And we didn't have this prevalence of all these diseases that we have now, all these autoimmune conditions, fibromyalgia, lupus, all these things that we never really heard of before. I'm not saying they were never there, but we definitely don't hear them to the sort of level that we hear them now, you know. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think if we go back to the way we were, start eating a lot of this fermented food, eating more of the healthy rainbow, as we say, in colors, and just getting the benefits from the food. I know that's why we encourage people to do this 2-week challenge, we call it. Try the 2-week challenge and see how you feel. And that's all we're asking really, is just try this method, see how you feel. Maybe it'll encourage you to eat a little bit more healthy every day and maybe shun the pizza and the, you know, the chicken nuggets and all that sort of stuff and go back and start eating this. I know a lot of people do that already, but just to strip it back down to the basics and go back to where we really belong, which is, you know, at one with nature and not trying to trick, you know, our bodies and get, you know, overly processed with it, you know.
That makes a lot of sense. So what's your 2-week challenge?
So the 2-week challenge is simply a spoonful of this each morning.
Okay.
And now some people can take that at night. We've heard a lot of people actually taking it first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Yeah. And I have heard about that with, you know, live cultures as well, that sometimes it benefits at nighttime. And that can be for, you know, for various reasons. And maybe it's just getting all those minerals into you at nighttime when the body goes into repair mode. You have all the nutrition in the body there to work with, and you're not sitting on a big heavy meal where you would normally have all those ingredients. You're not eating your meat and 2 veg or anything like that. You just have a spoonful, and it's really compacted with all the nutrition your body needs to start that repair through the night. So, you know, magnesium and phosphates, all that stuff is in there. And then the vinegar, you know, obviously introducing this into the diet, a good shot of it. I like to take a shot glass of vinegar and a shot glass of water and mix them. So like a 50-50 mixture. Because sometimes, you know, I used to do the big tall glass of apple cider vinegar and you drink a big gulp of it and then you gasp and you go, oh God, I have to go through the rest of this now, you know? So I try to take it kind of in small amounts And, you know, that's the way it's just routine for me. You know, I would sit this on the counter. It does say refrigerate after opening, but in fact, the bacteria in here will actually grow at room temperature, and there's no bad bacteria in here. It's all good bacteria.
Yeah.
So as long as you don't introduce any sort of moisture into this or anything else, this will survive perfectly fine at room temperature.
Yeah.
But because it's a food, we have to say refrigerate after opening, just like any jam.
Yeah.
But I keep that beside the kettle so I don't forget to take it, because I'm the world's worst at remembering things on an ongoing basis. So I will just, you know, as I make a cup of tea in the morning, I'll just take a spoonful of that. A shot of this, and that's basically it. So just, you know, introduce these two products into your daily diet for at least 2 weeks, you know, and see where you were at the start to where you are at the end, and say to yourself, you know, did it honestly improve my health? Do I feel a little bit better? And hopefully the answer will be yes. And that's what we find from a lot of our customers, is that they've actually found that it benefited them. And that's all we want to do. You know, really, we just want to, you know, encourage people to eat healthy. We keep these products as reasonably priced as possible. There's a hell of a lot goes into making them. Yeah. But again, we don't stick a huge price tag on them. We try to make them accessible for everybody. You know, slow and steady will win the race. And a lot of people have said to us, look, we're really happy that you didn't, you know, tell us that it's going to cure me for, you know, all sorts of illnesses, and that you've kept the price pretty reasonable and affordable. And we've had some people ask us, can we get it for cheaper? You know, but we can't really do it any cheaper than what we're doing it for. So
no, I think you've made it very reasonable. You know, you really have.
Especially for an organic product.
Especially for an organic product, especially for an Irish product, and especially for a product that's handmade and obviously made, you know, with care and small batches. So that was really interesting. Thanks for your time.
Do you have any other products on the
Yeah, do you have any? Yeah, it's a good question, actually. Yeah.
I'm always kind of tinkering in the background. There is one or two other things that we're thinking of, and they fit right alongside this. Can't really reveal them just yet. You'll definitely be one of the first to know. And we'd love to come down, obviously, when this, you know, crazy times are over, and we can actually get out and meet the public again, which is something I love doing, and I love meeting the staff and everything else in the shops like yourselves. And it'd be great to get down there and do some tasting, you know, and obviously introduce some of the new products.
That'd be brilliant. Well, I mean, it would be fantastic. You know, like if you have plan another holiday down this direction next summer. And I mean, you know, because we're actually going to have a bigger shop ourselves next summer. Hopefully we're expanding. We're expanding, so we'll have plenty of room. But also we can do things outside as well. That's the other thing we're just realizing, you know, so especially in the summertime. And, you know, we would love that. And we'd love to meet your family, and we'd love to have a tasting and learn where your business has got to in the meantime.
Great.
It's so
just an interesting fact for you. And this is, you know, some people ask me, why raisins, you know, and I get this all the time. Like, why do you use raisins? We actually use, you know, several varieties of raisins. So again, it's a little bit more complex than just, you know, raisins that you get. We're using California raisins. We're also using Turkish raisins, which is the Thompson raisin. And we use, in some of those batches, we will be getting varieties of raisin as well in there. So some of the suppliers don't just give you one particular type of raisin, you know. Sure. And the great thing about that is you get a really diverse range of the benefits and the polyphenolic compounds in there as well. But a lot of people don't realize is that, and you know, some of this, you know, when we put it together first, it came from different ideas that we've heard of, you know, through the years. I've heard of, you know, gin and raisins being beneficial for, you know, or used as a natural anti-inflammatory. Yeah. Hence, we use some of the ingredients that, as I said, there's 45. We don't like to give too much away, because the last time we did, you know, we pretty much told everybody we couldn't, you know, I couldn't anyway stop talking, as you know yourself. You can listen to me all the time. I'm flapping on here. We had to kind of restrict what we say, because, and we called it a tea infusion. And there is several teas in there. There's a huge amount of herbs and spices in there too. And most of those will be hand selected for their, you know, as I said, natural anti-inflammatories and the medicinal purposes that you would normally associate with medicinal herbs. But the raisins, the reason I picked the raisins, and the reason I really kind of formed the whole thing based on raisins, was that there's 3 natural painkillers in there, and the 3 acids. And most people don't realize that they're in raisins. And that's probably why that whole thing developed with raisins and gin, you know. The gin, you'd obviously have those corianders and, you know, all the other ingredients that you normally have, the botanicals you normally have in gin. they would have natural anti-inflammatories, but it was really the raisin, I think, that was, you know, creating a real kind of pain relief, I suppose, for people with those herbal remedies, you know. Ferulic acid, gentisic acid, those sort of acids, they're the ones that really are pain relievers in there. And they've been proven to be, you know, of pain relief as opposed to just natural anti-inflammatories, you know.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And is it, I mean, because I know raisins have resveratrol, don't they, as well? Grapes do. So I imagine raisins do as well, to an extent.
Absolutely, they do. Any sort of dark grape has resveratrol, which is obviously a polyphenolic compound. Raisins would be, you know, you can have white grapes and you can also have dark grapes in there, you know, and a lot of the Thompson raisins would be of the darker variety, you know. But, you know, blueberries, we use a lot of blueberries as well. And blueberries have very high counts of resveratrol in them as well.
Okay. Right, so basically what you're saying is this could be one of our 5 or 9 a day, pretty much.
Well, as I like to say, and this is one of our new little advertising slogans, is did you have your 45 a day?
45 a day, brilliant, perfect, very good, very good. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Lovely chatting with you guys.
Really lovely.
Really lovely.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing what happens next.
Yeah, and congratulations to Anya as well for fantastic products.
Yeah.
Best of luck with the addition to the shop, and hopefully we'll see you next year.
Yeah,
definitely.
Let's say next year.
Definitely. Yeah, we will.
Great.
We'll
Take care. Stay safe. Thanks very much.
Take care. Thanks a million. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye now.